So is Florida State trying to leave the ACC? They're trying to leave. Will they be able to? Stick with me as we get ready for Kirby Smart getting ready to go on Wednesday. Football is here. Football is here. Our friends at DoorDash are helping us power through August. Our friends at Red Zone doing the same thing. I've got some stuff to say about both a little bit later. I got a great deal for y'all. Stick around for that. I wrote something last night about the situation that's going on in conference, another version of conference realignment. And listen, around here, nothing's changed. There's a lot of appetite for teams in the ACC to leave the ACC. The problem is they made an agreement. They are being held to that agreement. Not only did they make agreement once in 2013, they reiterated it and built a channel in 2016 and 17. So no one wiggling out of the ACC for Florida State, who seems to be making the most noise about this. I know Clemson's talking about it too. That is great fodder for the message boards. It is not necessarily based in legal reality. Although I'm not an attorney, I can listen to what they say, and I know that this is going to be a painful, arduous process that is probably not going to be worth the trouble for both Florida State, Clemson, and whoever else they're trying to drag along with them. I think the schools are forgetting something else too. Let's say that Florida State departs the ACC. They would need a place to land. That would not be the SEC. Clemson, Florida State, the Green Bay Packers, the Southeastern Conference is just not looking for anybody right now. I think Florida State's time trying to get in the SEC is come and gone. That was in the late 80s, early 90s. It's done. So that's not going to happen now. But Florida State would need a landing place. I don't know where that would be right now. I think if they could go somewhere, the most logical place, frankly, would be the Big 12. The Big Ten just entered into an agreement that bringing on Florida State would be a great splash and everything, but I just don't know if their media partners would be willing to renegotiate a contract for Florida State, a Florida State that, let me get into it a little bit more as we go on. If you want this sort of nuance in not just coverage of college football, but of the Dogs as well, make sure you're subscribing to Dog Post. The link is right down below. Right now, and I don't know for how long we'll do this, but right now, if you sign up at the link down below, you'll get our 2023 preview mailed to you. You will get 20% off any item at Red Zone. There will be an email, and you'll get your specific code. You can get this sweatshirt. You can get this hat. It's an awesome deal, and you will also get a t-shirt from Red Zone. Now, final thing, for all of you who bought Double Dogs, if you subscribe, I will give you September for free. So do it now. Take advantage of this while you can. Florida State had its opportunity to go to the SEC. I can tell you that it would not be a unanimous vote for them to come in. Georgia would vote against them. Florida would vote against them. Auburn would vote against them. Alabama would almost certainly vote against them. I can't imagine Tennessee would vote for them. So that's a pretty big block of the SEC, and they would probably just drag their old buddies along, and that would stop Florida State, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Louisville. Those schools are not getting into this league. North Carolina, Virginia is a different discussion, but I don't even want to go down this path because it's not available. This is the most ridiculous discussion, and I feel like I have to talk about it all the time. What is happening right now is that Florida State is trying to blow up the ACC. They're trying to get friends to come along with them. It's not clear to me who those friends are. So play a little bingo with me. Florida State and Clemson, and to some degree Miami, they are football schools, right? They would need a landing spot. I can report with what I heard from people with my own ears. There's just not interest in those schools for the SEC, period. So that's it. That's just what it is. Now, this assumes that those schools could leave the ACC. I do not make that assumption. They cannot leave the ACC. They will have to buy their way out. And I don't just mean the $126 million or so that they would have to pay the ACC just for exiting the league. They would also not have the rights to any of their home television games. They would have to get those rights. They'd have to pay for them. They would have to pay the ACC for them. I don't know how much that would cost. That could cost about $500 million. Over 13 years that's remaining, it could cost close to $500 million. So 23 million times 13, plus the 123, that's about $422 million that you would have to pay out, probably something like that, to get out of the league. Now you'd have to pay the 126. Whether you'd have to pay the other $300 million, I don't know, but they're not just going to let people leave. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma had to pay. You got to pay, and it's just how it works. So leaving without your rights is not something that's, you are of no value to these conferences. But I think one important thing is being missed out here on all of this discussion. We have entered in a 12-team playoff, 11-game playoff. The conference champions in the current contract that we have, so this is the final season of the 4-game, and then there are 2 years of the college football playoff after that. And in those 2 years where there is a conference, when there is a 12-game playoff, 12-team playoff, those schools that are conference champions get automatic invitations. It's not going to do you a lot of good to go to the Big Ten or the SEC if you're Clemson and Florida State if you're not winning the conference championship. And I'm just going to tell you from recent history, you're not winning the conference championship. So sorry to hurt your feelings, but it's just what it is. They are better positioned for that period of time to be in the ACC. There are benefits from being in the college football playoff as the conference champion. There are monetary benefits from that too. That's being forgotten here. To me, the smart move, if you're Florida State, Clemson, whoever's really making trouble. I know Clemson's pissed. I get that. Florida, everybody's pissed. But bitch, y'all agreed to this twice. You put a gun to Disney's head and made them create you a cable network for an industry that is slowly dying. Cable television. This is your fault. You chose this. Is this now you're complaining because it's not a quote good deal and the market has passed you by. It's a bad deal for you now. It was not a bad deal for you when y'all were clinging to hope that the league wouldn't fall apart in 2012, 2011, 12, and 13. You added Pitt. You added Boston College. These were your decisions. No one made you do that. But because of the decisions that you made, particularly in 2016, your contract goes till 2036. That's a you problem. That's not Disney's fault. Okay? They built out a network for you on cable television in 2017. You know how hard that is to do? Check in on FS1. See how well that's going for Fox. It's not going real well. So there was expense there, and that's all that stuff costs money. And that's why you're tied in for as long as you are. The notion that these schools will just be able to leave is A, naive, B, uninformed. So people who've done reporting on this, particularly from the Florida State, it depends on who you're talking to, they're not all idiots. They're definitely not all idiots. But the basic game plan here from Florida State's perspective, and Clemson too, I guess, but more Florida State it sounds like, is to make as much trouble as possible in order to take, I guess, North Carolina, Clemson, it would be Florida State, Clemson. This is my order. Florida State, Clemson, Miami. I guess North Carolina after that. But the others, where are they going to go? They're going to go to the Big Ten? Okay, if they can go to the Big Ten, then have at it. But I don't know that there's interest there. We have heard nonstop about the interest of the Big Ten and or UW and Oregon. I don't think that those two schools are bigger national brands than Clemson and Florida State, but I don't think it's obvious that they're not either. So, I mean, those four are probably in the same universe. They've all played in national championships in the last 10 seasons. Well, UW has not. But, they've all had, relatively difficult times in their current coach's time there. Maybe not Dan Lanning's time or UW's new coach. But Florida State's had a rough run. I mean, Dabo, it was not pretty before 2015. Washington's had its own issues. Oregon obviously has gone through some coaches. They hired Taggart. That was aggressive. But I don't know that the Big Ten, the person that built the current Big Ten is gone. There may not be appetite there. So anyway, let's just say that they have a landing place. Those four schools alone, and I'm just pulling those four schools out of a hat, they do not have enough to break up the ACC. The other 11 members are going to make them pay. That's Duke, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Virginia, NC State. I mean, NC State views itself as legitimate a football power as Carolina does. And they're not just going to sit idly by and let them leave the league without there being ramifications. There's also an agreement with Disney here, by the way. So Disney could sue. It's all, to me, what's happening very succinctly is Florida State, etc., are upset. However, they are upset. The reason why they're upset is their problem, which is they cannot escape the current reality. They will be in the ACC for probably through 2030 at minimum, and I would say the odds are better that they are in the ACC until 2033 than they are that they're not. I don't know what kind of legal wrangling they can do, and with a lawyer, you can choose to do anything. But Florida State's not in position financially, none of these schools are, to be frank, to pay their way out of the ACC. They don't just have about $500 million. For people who are going to question me on this, check yourself. Check yourself. Your school, if you want to call it that, your school does not have unlimited money. I know Georgia's situation pretty well. Georgia'd have a hard time getting out of the ACC if they were in the ACC, and that's Georgia. So Georgia, Ohio State, Texas A&M, Texas, these are the largest cash-generating athletic departments. You're not just going to, for lack of a better term, and we're deep enough into the video, you're not just going to shit your way out and pay, hundreds of millions of dollars. You're not going to get your institution tied into lawsuits. People are lawsuit averse in higher education, particularly at these schools. They don't want them. So I think these other schools, does Florida State really want discovery of what's going on at Florida State? They do not. So there's a lot of reasons why there's a lot of reasons why this is not going to happen. But the number one reason that it could is money. But I mean a lot of money. And it's not there. It is not there right now. And Florida State is wishfully thinking, and they need to wishfully think some success on the field. It is not the end of the world. It is not the end of the world to stay in the ACC, get absolutely plummeted, or bludgeoned, financially, so long as you're the one who gets the automatic bid to the college football playoff. The Pac-12 will have an automatic champion. Their champion will automatically be in the college football playoff. It doesn't matter that Colorado left. That part doesn't matter. They still get that. So if you're Stanford or Cal or whoever, one of the corner schools, you can still go to the college football playoff. Could you really say that? Could you really say that recently? No, you could not. This is bad, but it's not all bad, and you chose this, ACC. Congratulations.